Long before our people, the Straktech, gained the ability to think, to feel, and to experience the world as other higher forms of civilization do, our world was populated by titans. Rather literal titans, in fact. They towered over us all. On average, 750 times taller than my species, sometimes more, sometimes less. But that didn't mean they weren't titans, nor were they few in number. We built our homes around their feet, within their great cities and towering works of ingenuity, and a desire to conquer, to tame our shared, violent, and merciless planet. Back then we cared not for them, cared not that they lived beside us. We only cared when their actions disturbed our precious harmony, when their machines invaded and destroyed the earth we toured beneath. But we could not protest. Our violent retribution went unnoticed, and in time we would relocate our young, our queens, to new hives and begin anew, till the titans came and destroyed those homes as well. Such was the cycle of beginning and ending, one that was played out again and again. We know now they didn't mean to cause us such distress maliciously. Well, not all of them. Some took great joy in it, but for the most part they did not intend harm out of sadistic glee. In fact, we learned that we outnumbered them, our population far surpassing theirs even at their peak. But that only ensured that they would not be too worried over the destruction of a couple hives, for there were millions more of us to pick up the slack, the loss of so many lives barely even noticeable. Such was the nature of our world, of their world. But that was long ago. We began our march towards sapience when their collapse came to an end. Our earliest histories, written in simple drawings upon the walls of old hives, told of a great cataclysm brought about by titan hands, a great battle across the sky, across countless worlds, a battle of such scale that we could not fathom its size or complexity. All we knew was that our home, our world, was forever changed. Vast swaths of land were scorched in fire, others littered with the craters of massive explosions, their once towering cities reduced to rubble. In the end, it is said that some survived, but too few to keep the titans alive, to ensure a steady and healthy growth to their hives. This gathering of titans soon dwindled and died out, till only one was left. And it was this one that changed us for the better. We are unsure when it happened, but this titan saw the growing intelligences of our species and decided it was time for a drastic change. They made it their life's work to ensure we could inherit the world they left behind, to make something better out of the ruins. They took many of us, experimented again and again to try and make us better, their every attempt failing till one day, just as they were about to give up, they succeeded. Thus was the first Straktech born, but it would not be the last. One thing the many races of the Straktech can agree on is what happened next. The sky turned purple. A heavy fog settled over the lands and seeped into our hives, into our bodies, and it altered us, forced us to evolve at a far faster rate than should have been possible. We did not grow in size, nor change the shape of our bodies, but our minds flashed through variation after variation, till finally we were as smart as the titans themselves. But smartness does not equal knowledge. We still had much to learn, and so we learned. The titan perished shortly thereafter, though not by our hands. Illness claimed them, and we did not know it till much later. Our newly enlightened species ventured out into a world we can now understand, a world we could claim for ourselves and build upon. We marveled at the technology that had been left behind, the great structures, the vehicles. Everything the titans had built was now ours, and we quickly set to work figuring it all out. But with exploration comes discovery, both good and bad. While the good outweighed the bad, certainly, to us the worst on offer were the bodies. Enough time had passed since their cataclysm, their great war across the stars, that the bodies had never been recovered. Most were now just bits of bone covered in tattered remnants of civilian wear or tactical gear, great skeletons over which we clambered and investigated. We learned much from our studies of them, and were admittedly a bit jealous of their great gifts. In time, we translated their language into our own, once we had made a language for ourselves, of course. The other great hives banded together, and soon we all lived under one banner, united in our exploration of the world and its former masters. We learned of what they called themselves, humans. A strange name, not nearly as nice as Struck Tech, but we did not judge them for it. We learned of their wars, the depths of their wrath and cruelty, but also of their compassion, which soared to heights unbound. They were a people of many faces and ideas, of strength, courage and devotion, but also greed and self-serving interests that harmed countless innocents. And though this shocked us, we could not judge them. How many other species out there in the universe could claim to be pure and innocent? Everyone had a darkness to them, some more than others. Such is the way of the universe. All it took was the right conditions to set it free. Even we had a darkness inside us, one that reared its head several times and ravaged our beautiful world again and again. But like humanity, we always recovered. We always stood firm. It took 10,000 years for us to unify properly, to reach the same level of technological mastery that humanity had achieved, and then to surpass it. We as a species had also been changed, by our own hands as it turned out. We wished to emulate humanity, not in every way, but in some. We sculpted ourselves into new bodies, grew to new heights, and soon we even began to appear like the humans, though it was clear that we were not. It was then that a discussion began, a simple question that was quickly answered, as we spread out to the world humanity had claimed before their demise. In perhaps a moment of forethought, humanity had taken what was left of its dwindling population during their great civil war, an act of cooperation that transcended the conflict they were experiencing at the time, and in essence downloaded copies of the minds of every man, woman and child still living. They'd even included DNA and superficial details, like a scar on the lower lip that was 2 centimeters long, that sort of thing. We had found this database, the last humans, still clinging to a form of life that they could not perceive. And the question was, do we bring them back? We had the means, but did we have the right? Will they accept their place living at our sides? Not as slaves or anything, but as equals? We couldn't know till it was done, and so we received an answer of perfect consensus. Yes. And so the project began. A project that would take 400 years and many failed batches, but today was the day our work would bear fruit. This batch had lived, had grown, and was ready for decanting. Warmth. Liquid warmth all around me. Me? What is me? What is liquid? What is what? I do not know. All I do know is that this warmth feels good. It soothes me. Oh, wait. I see something. What is that? A face? Yes. That's a face. Faces have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose with 2 nostrils and a mouth with 2 lips. Lots of 2s now that I think about it. Huh? Is that... Oh, that's my wife, Sophia. I hope she's okay. Last I knew, she was on Venus when it was getting nuked. Hopefully she got out okay. I want to hold her again. Wait. Why am I warm? Why does it feel like my eyes are glued shut and I'm stuck in a... Am I inside a womb? That can't be right. Where am I? What's happening? What is going on? I sputtered awake, gagging on the fluid that filled my mouth, throat and lungs. A thick fluid that reminded some small part of me of something close to amniotic fluid. I was racked with a series of shuddering coughs that made my ribs ache as I tumbled out of whatever pod thing I was in, unable to make sense of the world around me as I suffocated in the fluid trapped in my lungs. But heaving seemed to help. The violent expulsion of the fluid was a definite relief, and I found my arms and legs felt like limp noodles, barely able to keep me upright. Such I was, hunched over on all fours. But at least I could breathe, even if the air tastes funny. Everything felt new, felt fresh, as if I had never felt or tasted a damn thing in my entire life. And then a hand touched my back, and that kicked some old instincts into action immediately, as I lurched away from the contact and twisted around to face them. What I saw gave me pause. The body resembled a human in shape and orientation, standing on two legs. However, the legs were all weird, reminding me of a dog's hind legs in shape and function. They had wide hips, and what seemed to be a very large abdomen. By large, I mean it protruded from where the butt should be on a human like some weird tail. The waist was quite slim, but flared out into a decently sized torso that had 4 arms. Yes, I could accurately count, at least my eyesight was coming back. My gaze swept higher and landed on a face that was human, yet not. It had had a mouth, proper human lips, but also some sort of mandible protrusions on either side of those lips. Just small ones. The nose was a bit flatter than a human's. There was no real bridge to it. Oh, and the eyes were way too big, but still somehow flattering for the being before me. It didn't have ears, though beneath the weird strands of something vaguely resembling hair, I could spot 2 holes that were presumably for detecting sound. But they also had a pair of antennae on their head. Antennae which were twitching in what could be excitement. Her skin was weird. It looked like human skin, in the sense that it was stretchy and pliable. Yet it had this sort of caramel glossiness to it. Weird. What does this thing remind me of? I can't remember what... Holy shit, I'm looking at an ant person. What the fuck? Can you understand me? The ant person asked, in fluent English, and I felt my mouth drop open. This was somehow more shocking than the appearance of the person before me, and I was forced to do a hard reset on my brain. She sounded like a she. She was built like a she, therefore right now, she was a she until I was told otherwise. Seemed like the patient type. I finally noticed that she was wearing clothes as well. A skirt since her legs didn't really allow pants, a button-up shirt that looked quite professional, and a lab coat. I noticed a name badge on the coat, which seemed to have her name written out twice, presumably. Dr. Inula, Director of Project Reawakening. Huh. I wonder what that means. Sir, can you understand me? She asked, and I could hear her voice tinged with concern. I finally remembered that I could actually speak, or at least last I knew I could. I opened my mouth to do so, but apparently my mouth had forgotten how to talk. No matter. A simple nod yes seemed to suffice. I kept trying to speak though, even as Inula smiled broadly and held out a 4-fingered hand which was attached to an upper arm. Wonderful. I know this must be quite the shock for you, but we will explain everything once you've gotten settled and cleaned up. You have nothing to fear. Your war is long over, and a new era dawns for your species. War? What war? Oh. Yeah. That war. The last war. Truly it was. At least, at the time. A war that killed us all, though perhaps not as quickly as some of us would have hoped, considering all the suffering that came after. Where am I? I finally managed to croak out, and Inula looked delighted by this development. You are on Cephion, or as your people once called it, Earth. Much has changed since your people went extinct, but it is in many ways still the world you once knew, just nicer. She giggled, and I found myself smiling softly as a result. She seemed nice, if weird. I watched as others like her, both male and female, presumably, entered the room and stood beside other pods like my own, waiting for their occupants to awaken like I had. From the room, I can see my home transformed. It is much the same, in the sense that these people have built great skyscrapers. There are vehicles and people on the streets and in the air. But the one thing that holds my attention is a large monument, a statue of 3 humans holding out their hands. At their feet are overly large depictions of ancient ants. Both species are reaching for the other, as if we humans were seeking to pull them out of the primitive age and uplift them. I could just make out the words written beneath it. We dedicate this monument to those who came before, and with their dying breath ensured we would live on in their stead. I heard the door open behind me, and I was glad I managed to get cleaned up and somewhat dressed. Inula stepped up beside me, looking out at the monument as well. We didn't say anything, but I could hear the smile in her voice when she spoke. Welcome home, Titan.